Today's narrative is inspired by true events and revolves around a boy named Solomon. Like many children in his village, Solomon was born into a nuclear family. His parents faced ongoing financial difficulties, with his mother primarily focused on advancing her career above all. A few years went by and Solomon grew into a young boy. However, his youthful spirit was impacted by his mother's absence. His father, who loved and adored him, spent as much time as he could with Solomon, but he was a busy man. When Solomon turned 6, he experienced a very sad event. His father died, and Solomon felt very sad. He missed his father's comfort and care. Looking for a place to be alone, he found a quiet spot in the house, where he cried for a long time. Solomon's mother became increasingly absent. Most of the time, when he was left home alone, he had to learn how to get himself to school and back all on his own, as his father usually accompanied him every day. Solomon grew increasingly sad as the days went by. As the days went by, Solomon became an emotionless child, having no one to confide in, no one to talk to in the house. At his age, he was blanketed by depression. His mother decided she had to travel abroad for a job opportunity, and so she took Solomon to her sister and left him under her care. In this new environment, Solomon was now living with his aunt, uncle, and cousins, and so naturally he became the black sheep of the household. His aunt, while caring, focused more on her own children. His uncle was a strange man, always watching his every move. Years went by, and Solomon was now used to living with his extended family. Things were not anywhere near perfect, but they were better. He had his cousins to keep him company, his aunt who gave him some attention, at least. The only issue he had was with the uncle who watched his every move. Solomon's uncle became increasingly invested in what he does, where he goes, and what he wears, until one horrifying, fateful night, when Solomon was sleeping with his cousins in the children's quarters, his uncle asked him to take his books and go study in the living room. Solomon is confused but obeys the instruction, thinking to himself, why only me? He went to the living room and sat down with his books. As he was studying, he noticed a shadow slowly obstructing the light from the hallway. When he looked up, his jaw dropped and he nearly let out a scream. His uncle stood before him, his bare body exposed. He signals for Solomon to keep silent and begins to approach him slowly. Solomon shakes in horror, clueless and helpless. The man sat next to Solomon's shaking body and put his hands on the boy, preparing to do the unspeakable. Solomon shook and shuddered as his body experienced a crushing feeling of disgust, pain, and violation. His mouth was held shut. He lay there helplessly, tolerating what no child his age should even think of. After that night, such an occurrence became routine. Solomon's innocence was gone. Almost every night, Solomon would be ruthlessly violated by the very man who was supposed to be his father figure, who was supposed to protect him from harm. Instead, he was his oppressor, shamelessly using him for his ill-twisted desires. Solomon thought of his own father as he went through this. He recalled bits and pieces of his father's warm and loving nature and how protective he was of him. He used his deceased father's memories to tolerate the pain he went through every day. Years went by like this. His uncle had always threatened him not to tell anyone about what he did to him. But when he turned 16, he decided to muster the courage to tell his aunt. He told her everything that his uncle was doing to him and how long it had been going on for. His aunt immediately laughed it off, and told Solomon he was insane. Realizing the severity of the situation and how truly helpless he was, Solomon decided to do what he felt was the right thing. To continue listening to Little Solomon's story, comment part 2 and find out what became of poor Solomon and how he overcame all his unfortunate experiences.